there isn't really any such thing as losing. It's all learning. Phrase I use is punching the elephant in the room in the face.
You can only fail at prospecting if you fail to prospect. For the rest of your life, you are the chosen one.
Yeah. I need to control the ego a bit more than that.
Welcome to Building Your Sales Engine. I'm your host, Mark McGraw. Hey, in today's episode of Building Your Sales Engine, I interview Colin Mokhtary. And Colin is a SDR. He is making calls and he is booking appointments left and right at one of our clients. He's 14,000 sales calls he's made. We're going to learn some lessons from him, things about mindset, how to handle rejection, what motivates you, be able to, open up a conversation that's respectable, navigate through what's the tonality. All of those things are covered today in today's episode. Be sure to look for show notes and handouts over at buildingyoursalesengine.com for more information. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Building Your Sales Engine. Mark McGraw here. I've got Colin Mokhtary with us. I am exceptionally looking forward to this episode because we have somebody joining us today who's made over 14,000 prospecting calls. So stay tuned. There's going to be some really good stuff here. I would not be surprised. So Colin, welcome to Building Your Sales Engine. So glad you could join us, sir.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. Yeah, super excited to be here.
I'm glad you're here. A lot of people, I'm sure, are going to want to know some of your secrets and some of the great stuff that you've got going on. Let's start here. Tell me a little bit more about yourself. I mean, I know you're a client. You've been a client for a while. Appreciate that. Thank you. Background. Tell us where you're from. What you got?
Yeah, so originally from the Silicon Valley, and then I was a musician from the age of 5. Went professional at 18, freshman year of jazz college in New York, and then was in LA I'm in LA for the last 8.5 years, and was a professional musician for 12 years up until about COVID, and then decided I wanted to maybe use the same soft skills in a different kind of better paying career, and now I'm in tech sales and I love it.
What did you play?
Guitar.
Yeah. Awesome. Have to look you up. I got to ask Mokhtary, last name. Do you, I looked up what your last name, meant. Have you looked this up? This is fascinating.
Yeah, it's been a while. I forgot, but yeah, my, dad's from Iran. I think it's like the one with wisdom or something like that. It might be. I'm not sure.
Wikipedia says the chosen one.
Okay.
I mean, what a great name to have, the chosen one. That does not get better. So no pressure.
Yeah.
Colin, so your claim to fame, and getting started on a claim to fame, 14,000 prospecting calls. Let's start there. I think that's a great place to dive in. You've kept track. What's the story?
Yeah. So, obviously we can see, in our tech stack, how many calls we make and all of our metrics. So yeah, obviously I keep an eye on that just for my own personal growth and trying to learn. So started at Disco, May 2023. So yeah, in a year and 7-8 months, I think. And I mean, that post I made on LinkedIn was a couple months ago. So I think I'm a few thousand more in maybe to 14,000, but yeah, something around there. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's an impressive number. No doubt. So, I tell you what, let's just start here. What are some of the biggest, when I think about something like that, I'm thinking to myself, okay, so first off, you've got some behaviors in terms of some daily, weekly accountability that you're working towards. And even before we started, I heard you say, how many calls you made and how many appointments you set. So if you want to start there, we can start there. I definitely want to talk with you a little bit about your mindset, dealing with rejection, those kinds of things. Not that that's ever happened in 13,000 calls. I'm sure it's been a remote situation, probably never even occurred. But what's an important lesson that when you look at it, just biggest picture, Colin, that what's this experience taught you so far?
Yeah, I think being in tech sales, being an SDR has taught me uh, that there isn't there isn't really any such thing as losing. It's all learning. So when I first started, obviously at Disco, um, was very raw, very new. Obviously had the soft skills. I had the confidence, the personality. Obviously, that helped me as a musician. Networking skills, putting it to cold calls, tech sales, cold calls, software, very technical software related cold calls. Obviously, was a adjustment. And I think, yeah, I think just sucking early on was the best thing, because for everything I learned not to do, everything that wasn't working, anything that was getting me hung up on, now is I'm bearing the fruits of that labor.
What did you and we've all sucked at prospecting and cold calls and all the above, self included. Any memorable moments? I know I've had a couple too, but any memorable moments, funny stories, or anything that come to mind?
Yeah, so I remember the very first one that went wrong. It was so there was it was a little unfortunate. The guy had a delay on his end, and it was like a couple seconds delay. It was bad. So I just like he was talking, giving me reasons why it wasn't a fit, and I thought he was finished. So I started to talk, but then the delay 2 seconds later, he wasn't finished. He kept talking. So then I cut him off 2 seconds later, and he said, "Hey, look, but like I'm just gonna let you know, I've been doing this for 25, 30 years. You're not gonna get very far if you cut people off. Just best of luck to you. Don't do that." And he hung up, and he wasn't a fit anyway. It wasn't a big deal or anything, but it was like, wow, I need to get it together.
By the way, in all seriousness, I mean, it's a simple, straightforward thing, but having the technology and having a clear line, there's nothing more frustrating than trying to navigate. There's enough things in making a cold call that make it difficult enough without having technology and delays and all that. So, that's a lesson right there. But it's a humbling moment, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, humbling. Um, yeah, and I think a very good overall tool that I've learned from other content creators on LinkedIn. That was maybe to the extreme, but waiting a bit after the prospect is talking before you start talking again was that's a huge one. I think you maybe think you gotta keep it going. You gotta talk as soon as they're done. I think maybe that was an extreme example of just give it some time. Take like a half second before you talk. And that was the extreme end of the example, but it was a good example nonetheless, I think.
I find and we find that when someone feels like they have no control in the conversation, that's when they want to hang up. So if they have the opportunity to have a breath and to speak, generally they're more willing to hang out in the conversation, assuming it's a respectable conversation.
Yeah, I would agree. I think the biggest thing I've learned with joining the corporate world, being in tech sales, people love talking about themselves. People have egos, obviously in the music industry as well, but obviously in the corporate world. And I learned that. I learned that if you let people talk, especially about themselves, about their solution or their pain points or whatever, they will keep talking if you let them. So that's one of the things that still to this day I work on is sometimes when I know the meeting is coming, I know I can book that meeting. I'll be itching to get a word in, and then I'll maybe end up cutting the prospect off. They'll say, "Oh yeah, sorry, go ahead." Something I'm still working on, but gotten a lot better at to just I had a cold call. We shared it amongst the team at Disco. It was 15, 16 minutes. And it was I booked the prospect. It was a director level, and I mean she just ran down her whole pain point story, and I kind of just guided her along and then closed the meeting at the end. Um, because for whatever reason, she just clearly felt comfortable talking. So that's a good example, I guess.
Yeah, no doubt. And that is, I mean, if you get people to open up, it just makes everything so much easier. But it's tougher to get that to happen sometimes. And there's skill to that. There's learning. There's things that we've done. You're probably aware of this, but the approach, the tonality that you have. I mean, if you're friendly with somebody, if you're casual in the introduction in the conversation, that's a pattern interrupt in itself. So, I mean, I've used the pattern interrupt where I start a call with somebody and say, "Hey, it's Mark McGraw at Sandler." And there's that long sort of pause, and people jump in, they rescue. Hey, Mark, how can I help you? What's going on? Or, but there's something there that because it's casual, it's familiar, it causes people to pause for a second and engage in a little bit of a conversation. So I can totally see that. So awesome, awesome. And so, you mentioned permission based on that side, the 27 seconds. Is that in Sandler, we refer to that as a mini upfront contract. Is that what you're doing right there? What's that sound like for you?
Yeah. So the permission based opener, again, the same exact thing every single time. Everybody in the office, will joke with me because they know I'm on a cold call because they hear that exact same thing. It's the same thing, so I get a sure. Yeah, look, Mark, and I'm catching you cold here. I wanted to tell you why I'm calling you specifically. And if it's not relevant, we can hang up if that sounds fair. Every single time.
Nice.
You know, I would say 99, even maybe 100% of the time, you at least get a sure, go ahead. Or, um, I mean, very rarely it'll be like, hey, I'm on vacation or I'm with the kids. What is this? I can't. But 99% of the time, you get a okay, sure. Or the best is if you get a chuckle, if you get them to laugh. Good game changer, right? They'll laugh because they know that you're an SDR.
Yeah, and I think that's a key point you got right there. Is that I mean, I think it helps a ton to make somebody laugh, uh, to do something so that it's less formal. By the way, one time I called a guy and I said, "Hey, I catch you at a bad time," and he said, "I'm actually on a ladder. The phone's pressed between my ear and my shoulder. I'm hanging a curtain rod." And I'm like, "Hey, Douglas, I'll call you back." You're destined for a no in that circumstance right there. And by the way, the guy became a client, became a friend of mine over the years. It's awesome. Awesome. But that's the kind of stuff that I think, you mentioned earlier is that when you go through the process, you do the same thing over and over. And, that's having a good system. You're following a system, but it's not rote or it's casual. It's a conversation, but it's still a system as well. That seems like that's what you're following and that's what's working well for you.
Yeah, yeah, and going back to tone, I mean, that is the 100% the most. I mean, we could talk for hours about tone. That is the most important thing because I mean, even on the temperature check intro and how they answer tells me everything I need to know about how the call is going. If someone says, "What Connor with Cisco? What is this?" Then it's like, okay, I have to hurry up. And so for me, I've even noticed when I've gotten it wrong, the call goes differently. When I get the tone right, it usually goes well. It's a very interesting tone.
Yeah, and is there a mindset like sometimes we've coached people and said like go for like nurturingly assertive or the authoritative parent, but it's almost like you got to step into a role and have a little bit of a vibe around it. Is there a mindset that a term that you've coined?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's so subtle. I feel like it's so precise and subtle because I've found that if because I've tried a bunch of different things. The overly friendly and enthusiastic is a no go. You can tell these prospects they know you're an SDR. They know you're going to book a meeting. They know this stuff, right? So I think they appreciate directness. People overall, um, it doesn't work. I can sense that it's like, oh, here's a sales guy. Um, the monotone kind of call center dialer guy that doesn't work either. I think um, it's I haven't coined a term. The way I guess I put it is like it's it's professional, firm, and almost in a way where they're expecting the call. So these maybe something like, I mean, I get it wrong every day. I get it right sometimes, where it's almost kind of like that sounds like a friend. Like
Yeah.
that sounds like something you were expecting.
Yeah.
I don't, even something as different, as subtle as, how are you? No, it's too much. Right. It's these subtleties. It's like you deal with this on every single dial.
It's like when you say something, you want to end on a downbeat. It's that's where the authoritation comes from. But it's not an ugly or mean or anything like that. It's just like, hey, I'm an expert at what I do. You may or may not need what we do. I'm good either way. You know. But the fact is, here's the reason why I'm calling. And you roll through. So that tonality starts to shape things to me in a big way. And I'm with you. The flowery, I had a client one time, Kevin, he called it radio voice. He went back and he listened. We were running through some of his calls together. And he's like, oh my God, I've got radio voice. And, but that's like the radio show. That's not, to me, an effective method. And it sounds like you're finding the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so. I think, look, especially a director level VP, managing director level, EVP, C-suite level. These are serious people. I mean, overall, these are serious people, and I think it's that kind of I kind of call it, the phrase I use is punching the elephant in the room in the face, where they get sales calls. They probably were thinking you were their door. Nobody picks up a cold call on purpose, right? So you got them. They're like, okay, he got me. Oh, he's charismatic. He's polite. Okay, I'll give him. They know it's a sales call. They know you're an SDR. You're probably young and hungry and you need meetings to hit quota. So like, just punch that elephant in the face and acknowledge it's a cold call. I'm catching you out of the blue. Don't be up here. Don't be down there in terms of tone. And I think it works for me. Just that kind of authenticity,
Yeah. I think when, in some respects, once someone realizes, especially you're calling executives, once that executive realizes that this is a prospecting call, some are just going to hang up. And, I'm sure you've had that happen too. But some of them are like, is this person tall enough to ride my ride? That's almost what I think about is like, okay. And so every little instant in the first few seconds seems to make a huge difference in terms of how the shape of the conversation is going to go. You see the same thing, or what's your take there?
Totally. I mean, I get into this, I get into this mode where when I'm cold calling in the office, people will think I'm like, I have this game time face where I just look very serious because I cannot multitask with cold call. Like, it is 110% focus. Because even if I'm responding to an email and someone picks up the phone, if it's hey, Stacy, I lost already. You lost, right? Or even, let's say it's it's Mike, and you have to take 1.5 seconds to check what company they're from. You lost.
That's amazing. That 1.5 seconds could be all it takes between going left or right in a call, and that's accurate. That's very accurate. It's a fine edged game. It's a fine edged process. So all those things are important to have systems and to have processes as you go through. That's by the way, the name of our show is Building Your Sales Engine. So it's right there, right in front of you. So you said a couple things we got to circle back on too, and that is you get in the zone. So like you're focused in. Do you use any type of dialing system? I would imagine of some variety. And you're like, it's call after call after call. I mean, walk us through what that looks like so that you can maximize the time that you have, because you're not dialing 8 hours a day. It's call blocks, I imagine. So walk me through what's that look like as far as how do you get flow?
Yeah. So, we don't have a parallel dialer. We're dialing one at a time. In our SCP, our sales enablement platform. But yeah, the numbers will come up. You dial, you log the call, punches in, it goes to the next person. But yeah, for me, the vast majority of our persona is East Coast. Obviously being on the West Coast, so uh, just today actually for the first time I started earlier. So and I already felt the difference. Starting. Like I said, I'm at 174 dials before noon Pacific from 7 a.m. to noon, just dial. Um, no internal meeting, just straight dialing 7:30 a.m. to noon Pacific, 174 dials, 11 connects. Um, five of those I marked positive, and two of them were meetings booked before lunch. So because when I did the 9 to 5 Pacific, uh, around like 3 p.m. These East Coast people are starting to wrap up their day. They're picking up their kids. It's a lot harder. Things die down. So um, yeah. So to answer, I guess, yeah, to answer your question, my mindset. I'm basically, it's actually not really call blocks for me. It's I'm making as many dials as I can before 2 p.m. Pacific. So yeah. So days like today, obviously with no intro calls, no internal meetings, great. Okay, 174 dials. Can I do that every day? No, I have we'll have a Sandler training at 10 a.m. Pacific or something, right? Or internal team calls or whatever. So I'm just because of that, I'm making as many dials as I can before 2 p.m. So outside of internal calls, I'm dialing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then after 2 p.m. Pacific, I'll do that. That's when I'll do housekeeping, emails, account research. I'll try to think with my AEs as late in the day as I can, that type of thing.
And Colin, you're making those kind of calls. I mean, how do you keep your head in the game? Is there anything that if you were counseling somebody or coaching somebody on either dealing with rejection, uh, or the types of things that show up, how do you keep your head in the game through all of that? Because I'm sure not every call goes perfectly.
No, yeah, I mean, for me, I think I'm in a unique situation where, being a musician for 12 years, that's a long time to be kind of the starving musician, as it were. So for me, I do not need motivation to, if you said here, if you want, you will pay you to talk to strangers on the phone. I do not need motivation. Like, to make commission, to make money. I, I don't need to stay in the game. I don't leave the game, so I think for me, it's tough to ask for me because, I don't, I'm just self motivated. The money is motivating enough for me, and talking to strangers is one of the things I love as well.
That's a mindset right there. You love talking to strangers. Okay, so right there, that tells me something is that if you had somebody else that hated talking to strangers and that was their mindset, that's not going to be as joyful of an experience. Fair?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, obviously, I know many SDRs and AEs in the LinkedIn world, and um, a lot of people are either a lot of people are reluctant to pick up the phones. It's like a talking point, I think, in tech. Um, they either hate it, they get into SDR management, or um, they have a fear of it. I see a lot of content on LinkedIn about fear of cold calling, and for me to see that every dial is potentially money. It's like that's all motivation I need, really.
Yeah, and it's a great way to look at it. I mean, I tell you, one exercise that we've done with people is go figure out how many calls that you make, and then go figure out like what earnings you have, and go figure out what every call is worth. Exactly to your point. So even if the call doesn't go anywhere and you don't get an answer, that call is worth a certain amount of money because it queues up in the grand scheme of things. There's a Sandler rule. It says every unsuccessful prospecting call earns compound interest, and I love that concept. You can only fail at prospecting if you fail to prospect. So it's just house money, man. It's just all upside. I think that mindset goes such a long way to making calls. You've got it in spades, for sure.
Yeah, I think just it's just hunger. I mean, I think if I know we one of the greats, Lars Nilsson, he spoke to us one time at our sales kickoff, and he said, looking for SDRs, looking for that fire in the belly, that hunger. And I think, like I said again, when anyone who's been in the music industry for 12 years, from 18 to 30 years old, like, you're pretty hungry for money after that 12 years. So yeah, I think that's, for me, that's what it is.
So one lesson I pull from that too, Colin, is you got to have a why. You got to have a reason why you're doing it. I know if I make a call and I'm there and I know the services and what we can provide make a huge difference for people. And so if I can tap into that, I have almost a calling to make a call to somebody. There's a compelling reason. If it's for you, it's for money, and it's to make sure that, all the good things that you want with the money go along with it. So, by the way, you're making me laugh. There was I watched a friend of mine who's awesome at prospecting. His name is Sean Coyle. I watched him teach me a great lesson, and I'll just throw it out here with us. But he was making prospecting calls in front of a group of 20, 30 people live in front of the room. And he gets to a gatekeeper, so we can hear the conversations that are going on. And he gets to a gatekeeper, and the gatekeeper is shutting him down live in front of this room. And he's using this tactic over here, and it's not working. And he's using this tactic over here, and she absolutely, every door he tried to go through, she slammed the door on him. Finally, the call ends, and here's what he did. Taught me the most amazing lesson. He hangs up the phone, and he looks for the next number, and he dials it. He didn't debrief it. He didn't think about it. He didn't unpack it. He just moved on to the next call. And to me, that was just to watch the absence of any processing and just to watch him go on to the next call. To me, that was such a great lesson for me. So thank you, Sean Coyle, for that. But you have that, obviously. It's just built into you. You got it. You own it.
Yeah, yeah. Or I would even maybe go a step further, and I would hang up on the gatekeeper and call the person's cell phone.
Yeah. Just go around. Awesome. Awesome. So cool. Colin, any other final words or any other final thoughts that you'd have for somebody? They're navigating this. It sounds like you've got a great mindset about it. You've got a compelling why. I love the fact that you got a system. You're not having to do something different every single time. You're focused, you're laser focused and dialed in. Any other final thoughts you'd have for anyone who's making calls and they're going through the tonality and all the things that you shared with us during our time together?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is, understanding your importance. I think, obviously, it's an entry level position. Okay, sure, but I think we are the most important. The SDR is the most important person in the sales org. I believe that. We're the foot soldiers on the front lines for account executives to, shake the hands of, we warm it up. The bays come in and close the deal. But I think for anyone who's an SDR, I tell people, people message me on LinkedIn sometimes. I just tell people, just understand the importance of the role. It's the most important role in a sales org, I believe, like I said, and
I love that.
and I think for me, I don't just want to say I'm in this for just the money, but I think too, I feel that importance every single day. I'm making these dials so the lights are on, or a deal closes that I booked a meeting for, and it's like, that's, that could be a couple new hires or whatever, like just growing the company, forwarding the mission. I think that's the biggest takeaway, is understanding the importance of SDRs is my mantra, really.
I love it. I love it. And they are super, super, super important. It's an amazing talent, and it's the ability to navigate the conversation with the right tonality in the right way, to ask the right questions, to have sort of the right business posture. And all of those things just help tremendously through the process. So you've got it in spades, my friend. Kudos to all the good work that you're doing and all the hard work you're putting out. By the way, I love your LinkedIn posts. You do an awesome job. So if anybody's listening and you want to follow Colin, we'll put it in the show notes, but you do such a great job of sort of laying out sort of a day in the life of an SDR and what you're doing. And I think that's so helpful, to people. So appreciate you doing that for sure.
Yeah, for sure. It's a good time. A good time.
Indeed. Colin, thanks for taking time with us today. You brought a lot to the table. Super appreciative, and can't wait to hear and follow your success, sir.
Yeah, appreciate it, Mark. Yeah, thanks for having me. This is awesome. Uh, you know, my pleasure.
Indeed. And, just you can remember for the rest of your life, you are the chosen one.
Yeah. I need to control the ego a bit more than that.
Okay. Well, maybe we'll dial it back a bit, but maybe you got the ego because you were the chosen one. Who knows?
Oh yeah.
That's awesome, man. Well, take care and be well, and we'll see you again soon.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Mark.
So, hey, I hope you've gotten a ton of value out of this episode. By far, it's our purpose to help people make money and have fun and have a good time. We're here to help improve your life, to help you make it easier to go sell or to manage your sales team, and ultimately to go build your own sales engine. Don't miss an episode. Best way to go do that is to make sure that you jump out to buildingyoursalesengine.com/follow, where you can link up to all of our latest episodes. For more information about this episode, go to buildingyoursalesengine.com, where you can download show notes, transcripts, and other information, including handouts, snapshots of this and other episodes. If you'd like to connect with us to talk about how we can help you build your sales engine, and you are either located in the state of Georgia or are referred to us by one of our clients or affiliated by one of our clients, please reach out to us at buildingyoursalesengine.com, where you can click there to book some time with us. We can find out how we can be of help with one another. If you're not in either of those two circumstances, please reach out to sandler.com, where you can find a Sandler office near you. Be well.